Hey everyone, this is a video for Unit 4, solving for a variable. I'm in Lesson 1, and this is examples from your note pack, and it's examples 6 through 10. Number 6 says 2n minus 9 equals 13. So our goal is to get this n by itself. So the first thing I have to do is to get rid of this negative 9. Getting rid of that negative 9 allows me to have this about by itself. So how do I get rid of a negative 9? Is I do the opposite of that, which would be positive 9. So plus 9 to this side, I would have to plus 9 to this side. So what that does is negative 9 plus 9 would go away to 0, and that would leave 2n on the left side. So 2n would equal 13 plus 9. So 13 plus 9 is going to be 22. Now reevaluate the problem. How would I get this n by itself? Well, the n's being multiplied by 2. So to get rid of a 2, I would divide by 2. And what happens here is that crosses out to 1, which I don't have to write. But 22 over 2 would go to 11. You can check this. Plug 11 into n. And evaluate. 22 minus 9 would equal 13. Or you have to make sure that that equals 22 minus 9 does indeed go to 13, and 13 equals 13. So this would be the correct answer. Number 7, same process. You're trying to get that x by itself. So you would need to get rid of the 1 first. So if I subtract 1 from both sides, I would have negative 3x equals 18. Now I need to get this x by itself. So to get that x by itself, I would divide the negative 3 onto both sides. Negative 3 divided by negative 3 would go away to 1, which I don't have to write, and 18 divided by negative 3 would be negative 6. Go ahead and check that. Let me change colors here. If I go ahead and check that, I have negative 3 times a negative 6 plus 1 would have to equal 19 if that's the correct answer. Negative 3 times negative 6 is positive 18, and 18 plus 1 is 19. So that gives me a true statement. Therefore, this is the correct solution. Number 8 says negative 7 mu minus 6, all of that over 2 equals 18. So as you know by now, if I have this over 2, then this means I'm dividing by 2. So if I'm trying to get this by itself, I cannot add 6 because it is being divided by 2. So the first thing I have to do is get rid of the 2 on the bottom. And since this is a divide by 2, to get rid of that, I would multiply by 2. So if I multiply this side by 2, I multiply this side by 2. So remember, if I have a fraction times a whole number, I put that over 1. And what will happen is that 2 and that 2 will cross out, and I'm negative 7u minus 6 is left. 18 times 2 is 36. Now to get u by itself, you need to add 6 to both sides. First, you do not want to divide by negative 7 first, you want to get rid of the addition and subtraction. So that would leave me with negative 7u over here because that would go away, and 36 plus 6 would be 42. To get rid of the negative 7, I would divide by negative 7. This would go to 1, so u would be negative 6. So let's go ahead and check that. So negative 7, if that is negative 6 as u, negative 6 over 2 would have to equal 18. So negative 7 times negative 6 is 42. 42 minus 6 is 36. Divide that by 2, and you get 18. So that is a true statement. Therefore, u equals -6 is the answer. Yep. The next problem, number 9. Number 9 has a parentheses in it. So before you do anything, you have to get rid of the parentheses. So if I have a number on the outside of a parentheses, I have to distribute it through. So 5 times k would be 5k. 5 times 6 would be 30. And that would equal 20. To get k by itself, I have to get rid of this 5 and this 30. But the first thing I have to get rid of is the 30. So since this is a plus 30, I'm going to subtract it, because that would make that quantity go to 0. I would be left with 5k equals, and 20 minus 30 would be -10. Now to get k by itself, I would divide by 5. And that will give me -2. So now to check that, we put 5, -2 plus 6 equals 20. Order of operations tells me to do parentheses first, and since these can go together, I can go ahead and put 4 there. And 5 times 4 is 20. That's a true statement. Oh, excuse me, that's a true statement. Therefore, k equals -2 is the answer. Alright. The next problem says 6x over 7, which is divided by 7, minus 2 equals 1. So this one's a little bit different than the first division one that we've seen, but this quantity is getting divided by 7, and then I'm subtracting 2. So if I have to get x by itself, the first thing I have to do is get rid of this 2, because it's not getting divided by 7. So if I add 2 to both sides, this piece cancels out, and I'm left with 6x over 7 equals 3. Now, to do this problem, I would get rid of this 7 next. So I would multiply this side by 7, and multiply this side by 7. What happens there is if I put that over 1, that 7 crosses with that 7, and I'm left with 6x equals 21. Now to get x all by itself, I divide by 6. So x would equal 21/6, which is equivalent to 7 over 2, since they both reduce by 3. So now I can check that by doing 6, and anytime you have fractions, you can put that in your calculator and check it. Since I don't have one, I'm going to do this just in my head. This is 6 over 1 times 7 over 2. So if it's 6 over 1 times 7 over 2, I'd multiply 6 times 7 over 2, and all of that's divided by 7. Minus 2 equals 1. Now 42 over 2, that's going to be 21 divided by 7. 21 divided by 7 reduced to 3, and 3 minus 2 equals 1. 1 equals 1. Therefore, x equals 7/2 is my answer. So take it step by step, piece by piece, and move things away from the x. And that's how you solve these equations.